What if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? What if the world moved on without you, and the only way forward was to believe that the impossible could still be done? The lights dimmed across the packed auditorium, and a hush fell over the crowd as the screen flickered to life. On stage stood Elon Musk, dressed in his signature black tee and blazer, the kind of uniform that made him look more like a rock star than the most ambitious inventor alive. Behind him, a giant display showed a close-up of a man lying still, electrodes and a small implant at the base of his skull. The words, Neuralink Trial Number 12, Live Demonstration, blinked at the top. Ava Monroe stood among the thousands in the crowd, arms crossed tightly, heart thumping in her chest. The man in the video had been paralyzed for 5 years after a motorcycle accident. He was about to try to move his hand using nothing but his thoughts. The tension in the room was thick enough to touch. Then, suddenly, a finger twitched. The crowd gasped. The man moved all 5 fingers slowly, like he was waking up from a dream. People erupted into cheers. But Ava didn't clap. She was crying. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? She whispered to herself, barely aware that her phone's live stream was still running. She'd posted that caption half-jokingly when she went live, but now it echoed back like something more. This wasn't just a tech demo. It was a line in the sand, a before and after moment. To the thousands around her, it was revolutionary. But to Ava, it was personal. Her breath caught as Musk stepped back and let the man wave to the crowd. Ava's memory flashed. The last time she saw movement like that was on the living room floor of a 2-bedroom house in Midland, Texas, where her dad had dropped a wrench, picked it up with robotic precision, and explained to her what made torque possible. She was 8. That was before the explosion. Before the rocket test that went wrong. Before his body was never found. He was part of an early SpaceX partner lab, working on small propulsion systems before Musk's name was even famous. Ava grew up in the shadow of that accident, haunted by half-stories and whispers. Her mom never talked about it. She just worked extra shifts at the diner, pouring coffee and pretending everything would be fine. But Ava knew better. She studied everything she could, tore apart old radios, computers, engines, anything she could find, to try and understand what her dad had loved, what he'd died for. The moment Neuralink broke into headlines, something inside her had shifted. She wasn't just a curious kid anymore. She was an MIT grad with honors in biomedical engineering, holding a folded-up acceptance letter to a mid-level neurotech firm in Boston she didn't even want. Because deep down, she knew what she really wanted, to be where the impossible was happening. To stand where her dad once stood. And now, here she was, one of the top-level observers in the audience, granted access through a friend of a friend who owed her a favor. But even she didn't expect to feel the way she did. This wasn't a press event. This wasn't hype. This was something ancient and sacred, like watching fire being harnessed for the first time. The man on screen smiled now, raising his hand to his forehead in a salute. Musk's voice cut through the roar. We've just seen the beginning of what Neuralink can do. In the future, this will help people walk, see, hear, maybe even expand memory, merge consciousness, and explore what it means to be human. He paused. It's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about evolving. Ava watched as the lights came back up and the room began to buzz with conversation. Reporters rushed for sound bites, investors whispered numbers, and tech influencers checked their phones. But she stood still, clutching her notepad, her mind racing. She had come here looking for answers. Instead, she'd found a new question: what if the only way to find her father wasn't in the past, but in the future he'd always believed in? Her phone buzzed. A text from Rosa: saw you on the live stream. You gonna finally apply for Neuralink now? Ava's fingers hovered over the keys. She stared at the blinking cursor. Then, without thinking, she typed, already did. She pressed send. That was a lie. But it wouldn't be for long. She looked up at the stage one more time. Musk was already gone, off to his next meeting, his next plan, maybe Mars. The future was moving fast. But for the first time, Ava felt like maybe, just maybe, she could catch up. She pushed her way through the crowd, out the auditorium doors, and into the night. The California sky was a soft purple haze, the stars too drowned out by city lights to see clearly. But she didn't need to see them. She knew they were there. And somewhere out there, her father's dream was still floating, waiting for someone to reach for it. She pulled her coat tighter, walked to the curb, hailed a rideshare, and as the car pulled away, she whispered 3 words to herself she hadn't said in years: "I'm not done." The hum of the plane engine was steady as Ava stared out the window, watching as the California coastline gave way to desert and, eventually, the sprawling flatlands of West Texas. It had been years since she flew home, and she hadn't planned on doing it now. But something about that demonstration, about the way that man's fingers moved, unlocked something deeper than curiosity. It cracked open a vault she had worked hard to seal, a vault filled with ghosts, with grease-covered memories, and the quiet ache of someone missing from every moment that should have mattered. Midland wasn't the kind of place you returned to unless you had a reason. For Ava, the reason had never left. She landed in silence, no welcoming party, no family waiting with signs. Just the sticky July heat pressing against the jetway and the familiar smell of asphalt and diesel. She rented a beat-up sedan from a kiosk that still used paper contracts. The roads hadn't changed. The billboards still pushed oil jobs and divorce lawyers. Her old house sat at the end of a long gravel road lined with dying mesquites and rusting mailboxes. It looked smaller than she remembered, the once white paint now peeling, the porch swing still hanging by one chain. Her mother hadn't lived here for years, she'd moved to El Paso after remarrying, but Ava kept the house. She never knew why. Maybe it felt like the last place her father had ever existed in the real world. She walked inside slowly, brushing cobwebs off the doorframe. The air was musty, stale with the smell of old books and furniture that hadn't been moved since she was 16. On the hallway wall still hung the picture, her father, George Monroe, standing next to a rocket test stand, beaming in a NASA windbreaker, one arm around a younger Musk, the other wrapped around Ava, who was barely 5, squinting into the sun. She hadn't looked at that photo in years. She reached up and touched the glass, her fingers brushing the dusty surface as if the movement would spark sound, bring his voice back, resurrect the way he used to explain things in a slow, patient drawl. "This is how the future takes shape, Ava," he once said, spinning a model of a lander on the kitchen table. "Not in leaps. In little steps. Little miracles." And then one day, he was gone. The official report said the booster misfired during an experimental cold gas thruster test. No remains. Just a crater in the desert. Musk hadn't spoken about it publicly. It wasn't until years later that Ava even knew her father had worked with early SpaceX advisors. Now, watching Neuralink succeed, the patterns were clearer. Her father had always believed in interfacing the brain with machines. He wasn't just building rockets, he was dreaming of humans who could become part of the machine itself. She spent the rest of the night in the garage. Dust clung to everything. Her father's workbench stood as if he'd just stepped out for lunch, screwdrivers laid out in careful rows, notes scribbled in the margins of a spiral notebook, an old oscilloscope screen still cracked. She found something she hadn't remembered, a locked metal case at the back of the tool cabinet. It took her almost an hour to pick the old combo lock, guessing birthdays and serial numbers and failing again and again until, finally, it clicked. Inside were blueprints. Old ones. Hand-drawn schematics and a dusty USB drive labeled Interface 97. Her heart pounded as she connected it to her laptop. Most of the files were corrupted, but one opened, a video, grainy, low-res, dated October 3, 1997. Her father appeared on screen, seated in front of a whiteboard, visibly younger. "This is George Monroe, Project Log 9. We're attempting a neural interface using microconductive fibers and EM pattern matching. The goal is clear: direct signal interpretation without biological rejection. We're years off, but if Musk's right, if Mars is in reach, then human cognition needs to evolve to survive the journey. This is the path." He paused, then looked straight into the camera. "Ava, if you ever see this, keep going." She sat there, stunned. The man she thought was just a hardware guy, just a propulsion engineer, had been decades ahead of his time. He wasn't just part of SpaceX, he was building the philosophy that Neuralink now claimed as its own. The pieces started aligning. What if Neuralink wasn't the beginning, but a continuation? What if the foundation had been laid in garages like this one, by people like her father, who had no spotlight, no stage, just vision and soldering irons? By the time the sun rose, Ava had made her decision. She packed the blueprints, the USB, and a few of her dad's notebooks into a carry-on bag. She locked the house without looking back. On the flight home, she didn't sleep. She studied every note, every margin scribble. She started seeing patterns in the chaos, connections between early interface theories and the work Neuralink was now making public. She knew it was a long shot, but she also knew it was real. Musk didn't get where he was by ignoring long shots. Back in California, she spent 3 days rewriting her resume, updating her credentials, and building a custom cover letter that didn't feel like a letter at all, it felt like a manifesto. She attached one of her father's schematics, annotated with her own corrections and optimizations. She wrote, "This design predicted what we're now achieving. You built the rocket. I'm ready to light the next stage." She submitted it to Neuralink's research division under her full name, Ava Monroe. No hiding. No legacy pretending to be a coincidence. She expected silence. She got an interview request 2 days later. The woman who met her in the Neuralink lobby looked younger than Ava expected. Her name was Dr. Jennifer Hill, Chief of Device Integration, and she moved with the sharp, brisk confidence of someone who knew the value of time. "You're George Monroe's daughter," she said without a handshake, sitting across the glass table. Ava nodded. He was early. Too early, maybe. But I think what he was trying to build matches what you're working on now. Dr. Hill raised an eyebrow. "You're right. His name comes up now and then in our archives. He had wild ideas. Good instincts." She flipped through Ava's application. "You rewrote the impedance models on the Phase 3 probe array." Ava leaned forward. "Your array is strong, but it lacks redundancy for interplanetary application. Mars-bound crews won't have the luxury of recalibration. It needs to be self-healing." Dr. Hill smiled faintly. "We've been discussing that very problem. You may be right." She stood. "You're in. We start Monday." As Ava left the building, badge in hand, the air outside felt different. Not just warmer. Clearer. She wasn't just stepping into a job. She was stepping into the continuation of something far bigger than herself. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, "Little miracles." And suddenly, she understood. She was about to help make them real. On her first day inside Neuralink, Ava didn't expect the silence. It wasn't cold or unfriendly, it was focused. People moved like gears in a machine, synchronized by some invisible algorithm, eyes always scanning, hands always adjusting wires, checking readouts, annotating test logs. This wasn't the chaos of a startup or the stiffness of a research lab. It was something different, a workshop where tomorrow was being soldered together, one implant at a time. Her onboarding was brief. A short orientation, a tour through the core modules and labs, and a biometric badge that opened everything from the employee kitchen to the secure data vaults. But it was when she entered Lab 4, the Neural Adaptive Signal Suite, that her breath caught. There, laid out across 6 long metal tables, were the microthread implants that had stunned the world during the live stream. Paper-thin wires connected to wafer-sized receivers. Electrode arrays glimmered under soft LEDs. A mechanical arm gently placed thread after thread into test gel, simulating brain tissue. Ava stepped forward and watched it for a long moment, the robotic motion strangely hypnotic. Each movement was impossibly delicate, threading fibers finer than a human hair into something designed to carry thoughts. Dr. Hill appeared beside her. "We call it Stitch," she said, nodding to the arm. "That unit alone took 3 years and over 100 failed iterations. Looks like origami, right?" Ava smiled, though her fingers itched to touch the controller. "What does it feel like when it works?" "Like silence," Dr. Hill answered. "But a different kind. Not emptiness. Precision. A conversation so quiet it feels like thought." That night, Ava stayed late. She was assigned to the Deep Interface Optimization Group, a team focused on refining the connection between brain signals and digital output. Most of the team were neuroscientists with programming backgrounds. Ava was the only one from a mechanical biomedical hybrid track. At first, she felt like an outsider. They spoke in code and charts, argued over signal latency and spike sorting algorithms, casually name-dropped Nobel papers over pizza. But Ava didn't need to compete with theory. She was born in garages and late-night circuits. Her value wasn't in what she read. It was in what she could build. Within 3 days, she had already redesigned the signal isolation frame to reduce noise from external EM interference by 14%. By day 6, her tweaks to the substrate coating improved conductivity by another 6%. At first, the others were skeptical. Then they started asking her to review their designs. A week later, she was asked to co-lead the zero-gravity trial unit. That's when the conflict started. Not professional. Personal. Ethan Cale. Lead systems analyst. Brilliant, charismatic, and utterly convinced that emotion had no place in innovation. He wore crisp shirts and sarcasm like armor, walked fast, talked faster, and always had a clever reason why something wouldn't work. He was the kind of person who could break your idea in half with a smirk and a one-liner. Ava couldn't stand him. But he was good. Frustratingly good. And unfortunately, they were paired together for the Mars Integration Initiative, a classified sub-project aiming to adapt Neuralink's core systems for long-duration spaceflight. The idea wasn't just to repair damage or enhance cognition. It was to help humans survive the mental dislocation of a 2-year trip to a place where Earth is just a bright dot in the black. Their first meeting was tense. Ethan leaned back in his chair, flipping through Ava's diagrams. "You really think a mixed interface buffer will hold during solar radiation spikes?" "If we use adaptive encoding and neural load balancing, yes," Ava replied evenly. "The brain compensates. The system should, too." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You sure you're not just trying to impress Musk's ghost?" Ava didn't flinch. "I'm trying to finish what my father started." That shut him up, but only for a moment. "Then I hope he liked being wrong," he muttered. They didn't speak for the rest of the hour. But the tension worked. Over the next week, they produced 2 major breakthroughs. First, they developed a dual-frequency failover channel for thought pattern consistency under stress. Second, they created a sleep state monitoring subroutine that used real-time brain activity to autocorrect disorientation before it reached panic levels. It was Ethan's code, Ava's hardware. A marriage of opposites that worked only because they constantly challenged each other. Outside the lab, though, Ava was changing. She began dreaming in fragments, schematics, code strings, faces she didn't recognize. Sometimes she'd wake up with entire designs in her head, sketched them before even brushing her teeth. Once, she dreamed of her father sitting at a terminal, Neuralink on his temple, whispering, "Mars isn't far. It's just a direction." Her waking life blurred with her past, and instead of unsettling her, it lit a fire. One afternoon, between tests, she found herself alone in the observatory room, the one used for long-range stress simulations. She sat in the center chair, helmet beside her, watching old mission logs from the ISS. A voice spoke behind her. Trying to picture it? Ethan. Again. You think they'll actually go? She asked without turning. I mean, a full crew. To Mars. With this tech in their skulls. He walked in, folded his arms. Musk thinks it's inevitable. I think it's a gamble. But a beautiful one, she said quietly. He paused. Yeah. I guess so. Then he looked at her, really looked, and something shifted. You're not here for the headlines, he said. You actually believe this is going to work, don't you? I have to, she said. Otherwise, everything my dad worked for was just dust. Ethan sat down beside her. My brother was a test pilot. Air Force. He didn't make it back from a drone calibration mission over the Pacific. Just vanished. No recovery. She looked at him, surprised. I didn't know. I don't talk about it. But. I get what you mean. About trying to give loss a purpose. For the first time, they weren't engineers. Just two people, holding pieces of something too big to understand, trying to build a bridge out of grief. From that moment, things changed. Their work became faster, sharper. Ethan softened, became more collaborative. Ava found herself trusting him, not just as a coworker, but as a friend. Sometimes, even something more. But she wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Not while the project was still climbing. Not while the real tests hadn't even begun. The first trial was scheduled for August. A full simulated Mars mission. 42 days of isolation, deep thought monitoring, emergency response drills, and simulated zero-gravity movement via harness and VR immersion. Ava wasn't on the test crew, but she was lead observer. She helped design every parameter. As the countdown began, she watched the monitors, heart in her throat. The subjects slipped on their Neuralink headsets, the doors sealed, and the future began. But even then, she knew, this was only the beginning. The hum of the isolation pod was almost imperceptible, a constant background vibration that settled in your bones if you sat still long enough. 6 volunteers were locked inside, sealed off from the outside world by 8 inches of reinforced composite, bathed in low-spectrum LED lighting calibrated to mimic the Martian day. There were no windows. No clocks. Only the artificial pulse of life support systems and the soft clicks of Neuralink systems logging thought patterns, stress levels, and emotional variances in real time. Ava sat in the control bay just outside the sealed chamber, eyes flicking between 12 monitors, each one showing a different slice of the simulation. Subject 1's heart rate was elevated. Subject 4 was experiencing slight disorientation. The brainwave frequency charts danced across the screen, translating electrical impulses into colored waves like some modern symphony of thought. Her own fingers twitched against the console. She wasn't wearing a headset, but she felt plugged in all the same. This was her design in motion, her equations and calibrations being tested in one of the most advanced human-machine integrations ever attempted. And if something went wrong, it would be her fault. You need to eat, Ethan said from behind her, setting down a protein bar and a bottle of cold brew on the edge of her station. She hadn't even heard him walk in. He sat beside her, arms crossed, watching the screens like he was looking for ghosts. Sim time, 26 hours, 11 minutes, he said. So far, 0 system faults. Your neural balancing matrix is holding. Ava glanced at the bar, then at him. You trying to be nice or keep me from passing out? Both, he said, not looking away from the monitors. I know that face. It's the, I'm about to override my body's needs to make sure I don't miss anything, face. I'm fine. That's not what your eyes say. Well, I can't afford to blink right now. If this fails, the board pulls funding for the deep space arm. Ethan leaned back in his chair. It's not going to fail. You're good at this. Better than any of us. Ava didn't answer. She hated praise. It always felt like the prelude to disappointment. Instead, she focused on Subject 2, who was entering a light sleep state. Brainwave activity dropped into a gentle alpha rhythm, right on target. The embedded interface began pulsing softly to counter microneural tremors, just as it was programmed. Ava let herself exhale. How long do you think they'll last? She asked. All 6. Ethan tilted his head. Longer than the last group. The link stabilizes the sense of isolation. Regulates cortisol. You basically hacked their fear response. I didn't hack it, Ava said, a small smile tugging at her lips. I just reminded the brain that it's not alone. Ethan looked at her, brow furrowed. That's poetic. Did your dad talk like that? Ava froze. No one had asked about him like that before. Not here. Not at Neuralink. Sometimes, she said. He used to say space wasn't empty. Just waiting to be filled. Sounds like a dreamer. He was, she replied. But he was also an engineer. He believed if you couldn't build it, you didn't understand it. Ethan nodded, his face unreadable. Then the alert buzzed. Yellow code. Subject 5. Rapid eye movement. Accelerated breathing. Neuralink monitor flashing mild distress. Ava leaned forward, fingers flying across the console, expanding the data stream. Subject 5 was in REM, deep in a dream cycle, but the dream was triggering fear spikes. Elevated adrenaline. A burst of theta waves, unpredictable and jagged. He's dreaming of drowning, Ava muttered. See the pattern? It's classic. Can the link buffer it? Ethan asked. It should, unless he's overriding it with emotional intensity. The subconscious is stubborn. Ava ran a manual override, sending a low-frequency signal through the implant. A calming pulse designed to nudge the brain out of the spiral without waking the subject. Seconds passed. The spike softened. Breathing slowed. Theta waves gave way to delta. Peace returned. Ava sat back, heart pounding. That was close. Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. You just soothed a nightmare with a machine. No, she corrected. I helped the brain soothe itself. That's the point. The machine's just a translator. Still, Ethan said, if you'd told me a year ago that we'd be adjusting someone's dreams with a neural implant, I'd have said you were insane. And now? Now, he said, I think we're just beginning to understand what this really is. The rest of the sim continued without major incident. After 42 hours, the subjects completed their first stress drill, a simulated solar flare forcing them to reboot systems, relocate digitally mapped resources, and rely solely on mental commands through Neuralink to coordinate. It wasn't flawless. Subject 3 froze under pressure. Subject 6 hesitated before activating oxygen redistribution. But overall, the system held. No one cracked. No one asked to be pulled. When they emerged from the pod, blinking into the real world, there were no cheers. Just quiet. Some cried. Some smiled. One whispered, I didn't feel alone the whole time. Ava watched through the glass as they were led to debriefing. Dr. Hill approached from the far hallway. You did it, she said. The board's impressed. They're already greenlighting phase 2. Ava nodded, trying not to let the exhaustion catch up. Her hands trembled slightly, whether from adrenaline or something deeper, she didn't know. You're not surprised, Dr. Hill said. Ava shook her head. No. I've been dreaming of this for too long to be surprised. Then get some rest, Hill said. Because the next phase? We test in orbit. Those words echoed through Ava's body like an electrical surge. Orbit. Space. The real thing. They weren't just simulating anymore. They were getting ready to leave Earth. Later, long after everyone had gone home and the lights dimmed in the corridors, Ava stayed behind. She sat alone in Lab 4, beside the stitch arm, watching the test gel shimmer under blue LEDs. She pulled out her father's notebook from her bag. Flipping through the pages, she found a line she hadn't noticed before, written in faded ink near the back. The stars are too quiet. Someone has to teach them to listen. She ran her finger over the words. The stars weren't quiet anymore. They were humming. And soon, she would hear them up close. The hum of the Falcon 9 rocket's internal systems was deeper than anything Ava had ever heard, like the sound of a heart beating from inside a chest cavity, slow and steady, mechanical and alive. She stood on the lower deck of the crew tower at Cape Canaveral, her badge clipped tightly to her Neuralink lab coat, her palms sweaty despite the cool Florida breeze coming off the Atlantic. 3 astronauts stood 10 feet away, suited up in the latest SpaceX flight gear, helmets sealed, Neuralink implants barely visible beneath their helmets. This was it. Phase 2, in-orbit testing. 48 hours on the Crew Dragon capsule in low Earth orbit, no physical control panels, no tactile switches, only Neuralink guidance and mental command protocols supported by traditional fail-safes. This was the first real demonstration of the link in space. One of the astronauts, Commander Rachel Lynn, a seasoned ISS veteran with nerves of steel, turned to Ava and nodded. "You sure this thing won't fry my brain?" Ava grinned. "Only if you try to play Tetris during re-entry." Rachel laughed, shaking her head. "It's still weird, you know. Thinking a command and watching a system respond. Like telekinesis, but for nerds." "It's not magic," Ava said. "It's just precision." "That's what worries me," Rachel muttered, then stepped into the elevator. The launch was scheduled for 3:12 p.m. Eastern. Ava was escorted to Mission Control, where she sat between 2 senior engineers from Neuralink and a flight director from SpaceX. Her console was custom-built for this test, 12 neural telemetry feeds, one for each subprocess linked to the implant, color-coded and translating thought data into readable outputs. She watched the countdown tick down, second by second, her nerves coiled tight. 10. 9. 8. She gripped the edge of the console. 7. 6. 5. She could feel Ethan's presence behind her even before he spoke. "You look like you're about to throw up." 4. 3. 2. She didn't answer. 1. The boosters ignited with a roar that shook the building. Outside, the Falcon 9 lifted from the pad, arcing into the sky with that impossible grace rockets always had. Raw power pretending to be elegant. The capsule separated flawlessly. 13 minutes later, the crew was in orbit. And Neuralink was live. "Commander Lynn," Ava spoke into the headset. "We're green across all systems. You're clear to initiate hands-free protocol." "Copy that," Rachel said. "Engaging now." On Ava's screen, neural input spikes registered. Mental commands were being issued, navigation pings, orientation checks, life support diagnostics. The commands weren't spoken or typed. They were thought. And the ship responded. Ethan let out a low whistle. "It's working." Ava's hands hovered over the controls, watching as Rachel navigated a simulated emergency drill using only thought to command the Dragon's interface. The backup crew on board remained still, allowing her to handle the entire sequence. Every neural response was captured, translated, and verified. It was seamless. Almost too seamless. "Telemetry matches predictive models," Ava said, her voice low, careful. "Cognitive strain well within safe range. Pulse stable. Muscle tension low. Then came the true test, the orientation challenge. Rachel had to mentally reorient the capsule using only thought-initiated commands without any visual cues. It was designed to test deep spatial reasoning under isolation, a simulation of real Martian transit scenarios where communication lag would make real-time commands impossible. Ava watched the data flow as Rachel concentrated. The capsule shifted. Slowly at first, then more precisely. "That's it," Ava whispered. "She's doing it." "Like she's flying with her brain," Ethan added. "No hands, no voice." "Exactly," Ava said. "It's not just thought, it's instinct. We're tapping into something deeper." Hours passed. The team took turns monitoring. Neural activity varied but never spiked dangerously. Rachel reported minor dizziness, but nothing unmanageable. "It's like floating inside your own thoughts," she said over the comm. "I can feel the ship like it's an extension of me." That line hit Ava like a bolt. It was exactly what her father once theorized, mechanical embodiment through neural signal integration. Not just using machines. Becoming them. The second night passed quietly. Ava barely slept. She kept a cot in mission control, rising every hour to check telemetry. The final experiment was a loopback memory sync. The implant would record mental actions and feed them back into Rachel's mind on a delay, creating a loop of thought awareness that simulated long-term decision-making. A critical necessity for future Mars crews operating without constant Earth-based oversight. The moment they initiated the sync, something unexpected happened. The signal didn't just replay. It anticipated. Ava leaned in, studying the data. She's completing sequences before she consciously initiates them. Like predictive instinct, Ethan said, watching over her shoulder. The system's learning her faster than we expected. No, Ava said, mind racing. She's syncing with it emotionally. The brain's trust centers are activated. The system's not just responding, it's bonding. Is that safe? Ethan asked. Right now it is, Ava said. But it means something bigger. This isn't just tech anymore. It's partnership. The rest of the test proceeded without error. Re-entry was flawless. When the crew was recovered, Rachel walked out of the capsule unaided. She looked up at the sky, then back at the Neuralink engineers waiting near the recovery tent. She pointed at her head. That thing, she said. That's the closest I've ever felt to the ship. Like it knew what I wanted before I did. Back at Neuralink HQ, the data poured in. Success at every level, zero signal lag, seamless command transfers, stable emotional responses, minimal strain, zero neural degradation. Ava stood before the internal board 3 days later, presenting her findings. She spoke with certainty, her father's notes folded in her pocket, the prototype schematics he once drafted now transformed into living proof. This isn't just augmentation, she told them. It's convergence. We've crossed the threshold where mind and machine don't just communicate, they collaborate. And Mars? One of the directors asked. Is this scalable? Yes, Ava answered. But only if we stop thinking like engineers and start thinking like explorers. This isn't about perfect code. It's about trust between the human brain and the tools we create. Later, standing on the balcony overlooking the city, Ethan joined her. You know what this means, right? That we're going to Mars, she said. No, he replied. That you're going. You're the only one who understands this system from both sides, emotionally and technically. Ava looked out over the lights below, her heart thudding. I never thought I'd leave Earth. Your father did, Ethan said quietly. And now, you will too. She didn't reply. But she didn't need to. Her mind was already 1,000 miles away, somewhere past the sky, riding that thin electric current that now connected the human soul to the stars. Ava stood beneath the glow of the conference room lights, the sound of the glass door hissing shut behind her. The room wasn't large, but it carried the weight of something irreversible. Around the long table sat 10 of the most influential people in Neuralink, SpaceX, and NASA combined, engineers, medical officers, mission analysts, and 2 very quiet, very important figures from the Department of Defense who said nothing but watched everything. On the far side of the room was a massive screen displaying a single word in crisp blue letters, crew. Dr. Hill stood at the head of the table, a digital tablet in one hand, the other tapping it rhythmically. Her eyes swept across the room until they landed on Ava. "We've confirmed it," Hill said without ceremony. "The Mars initiative has passed the final phase of governmental review. The next launch window is 27 months from now. Selection begins today." Silence held for a second too long. Then Ava's mind caught up to the words. They were doing it. Not someday. Not hypothetically. Now. 27 months. That was nothing in mission terms. Nothing for the training, the modifications, the psychological calibration, the radiation adaptation protocols, the suit redesigns, the final hardware stress tests, the crew psych evaluations, the global press strategies. That was barely enough time to blink. "This will not be a simulation," Hill continued. "This is not another capsule in orbit. This is a one-way launch for the first phase of the Mars base construction mission. Return is projected, not guaranteed. Volunteers only." Her voice dropped slightly. "And you will need to be modified." A quiet ripple went through the room, barely perceptible but absolutely there. The word hung heavy, modified. Neuralink in its consumer version was non-invasive, or at least minimally so. But for Mars, the tech had to evolve. It had to become part of the body, not just something that lived in the skull. Ava already knew this. She had been part of the project team preparing the upgraded system, the fusion of brain-machine interface with haptic feedback control, integrated decision mapping, autonomous cognitive backups, and most controversially, emotional threshold balancing. It wasn't just a tool anymore. It was a partner. And that meant altering the brain's very ability to perceive itself. Ethan sat beside her, jaw clenched. She could feel the tension in his shoulders. She knew he didn't like the idea of deeper integration. He'd always argued for minimal interference. Preserve the sanctity of the human brain. Let the tech adapt, not the biology. But Mars wouldn't wait for philosophy. "Candidates will undergo extended testing beginning next week," Hill went on. "We'll select a core team of 6, 4 mission operators and 2 support leads. Every individual must undergo full bioadaptive integration by Phase 2. The screen behind her changed. 6 empty frames appeared. No names. Just outlines. Ava stared at those frames like they were gravestones or birth certificates, hard to tell which. That night, Ava walked alone along the southern side of the Neuralink compound, the moonlight sharp against the concrete. She thought of her father. Of the things he'd believed. That humanity was meant to expand. That the mind was a tool, not a cage. He once told her, "There's no difference between magic and technology, except who gets left behind." She sat on the edge of a planter, looking out at the Pacific in the distance. She didn't feel scared. Not of space. Not of Mars. Not of the cold or the loneliness or the millions of silent miles. But she felt the weight of knowing that once she said yes, there would be no turning back. Neuralink wasn't an experiment anymore. It was becoming her. The next morning, she met with Dr. Theo Navarro, the lead neuroadaptation specialist. He was tall, precise, and spoke like a man who measured every syllable before releasing it. He explained the next-gen implant in clinical terms, a lattice of microthreads woven not just into the motor cortex, but also into the limbic system, allowing emotional stability modulation. A secondary unit would sit beneath the collarbone, interfacing with muscle memory, stress centers, and autonomic threat detection. In short, it would make Mars survivable. It could suppress fear, regulate depression, anticipate isolation spirals before they started. You won't be less human, Theo said. But you'll be buffered. Ava frowned. Buffered? You'll still feel everything. You just won't be overwhelmed by it. And if I want to be overwhelmed? Theo studied her. Then you'll know it's your choice, not the biology reacting. She left the session with a consent form in her pocket and a choice heavier than gravity itself. That evening, she met Ethan on the roof, where the city lights met the edge of the stars. You're going to say yes, he said without turning. You know I am. I don't like it, he said. It's too much. Too deep. You helped build it. I built a connection, he said. You're letting it rewire you. She walked closer. Isn't that what evolution is? Rewiring with purpose? He turned to face her, his eyes hard. And what happens when it's not you making the decisions anymore? When the system decides for you what you can feel or think? Then we build a better system, she said simply. We don't stop because the first version scares us. A long silence passed between them. Finally, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small drive. I made a simulation, he said. Full Mars protocol. Neural response mapping. Put this into your link. It'll show you what it feels like to lose control, and get it back. She took it without speaking. That night, she plugged in. The world dissolved into white, then red, then black. Suddenly, she was on Mars. She could feel it, not the dirt or the air, but the silence. The heaviness. The separation. Earth wasn't just far. It didn't exist. She walked through a digital habitat, heard alarms blaring in the distance, systems failing, radiation alerts peaking. Her breathing accelerated. Her thoughts scrambled. The implant pushed back, calming her. Dulling panic. But only if she allowed it. She could resist. Or surrender. And somewhere in that moment, she understood, it wasn't about control. It was about choice. The implant didn't own her fear. It offered her space to face it. When the simulation ended, she opened her eyes to find tears on her cheeks. And a clarity she hadn't felt in years. She signed the consent form the next morning. Implantation was scheduled for Tuesday. As the surgical prep began, she felt no fear. The world was changing, and she was going to Mars. Not as a passenger. As proof that the human mind, guided, supported, but never replaced, could be the vessel that carried civilization forward. Not in theory. In flesh, thought, and fire. Ava lay flat on the surgical bed, a sterile white blanket covering her from the chest down, her arms gently restrained not out of necessity but protocol. The room was silent except for the rhythmic beep of her heart monitor and the quiet hiss of filtered air through vents in the ceiling. Above her, two robotic arms hung suspended, unmoving for now, but poised like the wings of some mechanical angel ready to descend. She had seen this room dozens of times before, reviewed footage of other implantations, monitored patients under similar procedures, watched as threads thinner than a hair were inserted precisely into regions of the brain most people never thought about. But she had never been the one lying down. Never been the patient. Never been the experiment. Dr. Theo Navarro stood at her side, dressed in a dark blue surgical tunic, face calm, voice soft but steady. Ava, you'll be awake for the interface portion, just like we discussed. The initial sedation is local. No general anesthesia. We need you conscious to calibrate the limbic fusion node. You'll feel some pressure but no pain. I remember, Ava said. Her voice didn't shake, but her hands did. We're also installing the auxiliary unit today, Theo continued. The subclavicular housing. That'll interface with the extended haptics, muscle memory augmentation, and the emotional feedback grid. All standard. But if at any point it's too much. If you want to stop, you say the word. What if I think the word? Ava asked, almost joking. Theo smiled slightly. We've got safeties in place. Thought is measured by intent, not stray noise. You're still in charge. The nurse beside her swabbed her scalp with antiseptic, the sting sharp and oddly grounding. Ava closed her eyes and let the sensation anchor her. She wasn't afraid of the procedure itself. She was afraid of what came after. Of waking up and not feeling like herself. Or worse, waking up and feeling like something more, something enhanced, something not quite human. Was that loss or evolution? Theo gave the nod. The robotic arms hummed softly and descended. Ava stared up as the scanner swept across her forehead, calibrating the insertion sites. She felt the first prick, barely noticeable, followed by a tingling pressure that wasn't quite pain, but wasn't comfort either. It was as if something was burrowing into her without breaking her. The first wave of threads entered her motor cortex, linking with the implants from the earlier prototype she'd worn during sim tests. Then came the deeper integration, threads guided to her limbic system, connecting emotion, memory, and instinct into a new digital interface. As the machine worked, Ava's vision flickered. Not physically, neurologically. She saw flashes of images. Her father's face. A starfield. Her hands building a circuit board. Mars. Silence. Heat. She blinked. They were gone. You okay? Theo's voice was calm but sharp. Yes, she whispered. I saw, it doesn't matter. Phantom memory reaction, Theo said. Common during limbic threading. Your processing stored emotion as your brain reshuffles priorities. Don't fight it. Just observe. Ava nodded, even as another wave of sensation washed over her. This time it wasn't images, it was feelings. A wave of confidence, then fear, then the strange, hollow chill of deep space, though she had never been there. Her pulse quickened. This is the empathy module syncing, Theo explained. The system is identifying your emotional patterns and learning how to echo them back at you. Like a mirror, but one that can also support you when you fracture. I'm not going to fracture, Ava muttered. That's what they all say. Then came the final step, the subclavicular integration. The auxiliary housing was no bigger than a coin, but it felt like a key. Once placed beneath the skin, just above her heart, it would wirelessly connect to the neural net and allow for real-time emotional modulation, haptic feedback during decision-making, and biometric stress balancing. The sensation was different. Heavier. As though someone had pressed a second heartbeat beneath her skin. Integration in 3, 2, 1. The surge wasn't painful. It was clarity. A click inside her head that felt like a thought she hadn't had yet. Suddenly she was aware of her breathing not just as a function, but as a choice. She could feel her heartbeat slow as the implant responded to her anxiety. The system wasn't taking control. It was offering a suggestion. Calibrate. Adjust. Continue. Her thoughts grew more organized, her emotions more accessible, like files in a perfectly sorted cabinet. She felt a warmth flood her chest, not physical warmth, but the artificial sense of comfort the system provided. It's live, Theo said, watching her readings. You're synced. It feels, she paused, struggling to find the right word. Like someone's holding my hand. But from inside my brain. Theo chuckled. You're going to Mars. You'll need more than hands. You'll need stability. You'll need memory reinforcement. You'll need clarity when everything around you becomes chaos. And if I reject it, she asked. Then we pull the plug. You go back to baseline. Ava lay still, eyes open, letting herself live in the new sensations. The world felt the same but moved differently. She could feel her instincts sharpen, her internal monologue slowed just enough to become more articulate. Her mind wasn't racing. It was listening. "Bring in the calibration sim," she said. A moment later, the ceiling screen activated, and a synthetic Mars environment surrounded her, a VR layer fed directly into her optical and auditory cortex via the link. She was standing on the Martian surface. Alone. Red sand stretched in all directions. The wind howled through her mind as if it were real. A calm buzzed in her ear. "Life support at 78%, said a voice. "Suit integrity failing. A scripted crisis." She breathed in slowly, felt the link offer support. Calm, methodical thinking surfaced. Protocols initiated automatically. She patched the suit breach in the simulation within moments, reacted to the signal as if she'd done it 100 times. "Crisis response latency down to 1.3 seconds, Theo said, amazed. "That's half the average." "I wasn't thinking," Ava said. "It was like I just acted." That's the link balancing instinct with calculation. The emotional feedback loop softens panic, prioritizes logic. She ended the simulation and opened her eyes. The room returned to normal. The machines quieted. The arms retracted. The implant hummed softly in her chest, a new rhythm her body was already accepting. She sat up slowly, the world unchanged and utterly different. Ethan met her outside recovery, arms crossed, trying not to show concern. She looked at him, eyes sharper, posture straighter. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm better," she said. "Not less human. Just, more focused. That's what scares me." She took his hand. "Then come with me." He blinked. "To Mars? To the next trial? To the crew? We build this future together, or not at all?" For the first time in days, Ethan didn't have a clever retort. He just nodded. And the decision, like the implant, clicked into place. The launch was no longer an abstract dream. The future had begun, one thread at a time. The desert didn't care who you were. It didn't care if you were a scientist, an astronaut, a billionaire, or someone trying to outrun the memory of their father's last breath. It was dry, ruthless, and endless, exactly why SpaceX had chosen it. The Mars simulation base in southern Nevada stretched across 50 acres of rocky terrain, isolated by steep cliffs and blistering heat. There was no signal here. No cell towers. No distractions. Just the future. Ava stepped out of the VTOL and into a blast of wind-blown dust, her boots crunching against the red soil. It had been engineered to match Martian regolith in consistency and reflectivity, mimicking what their bodies would move through someday soon. The air was dry, her lips chapped almost instantly. But her mind stayed clear, her breathing stable, regulated by the implant. Behind her, Ethan disembarked, hauling a crate of neural test equipment. "I'm starting to miss concrete," he muttered. "You'll miss it more after month 2, Ava replied, adjusting her visor. Ahead of them stood the Sim Dome, a pressurized habitat complete with artificial gravity plates, hydroponic chambers, decompression airlocks, and 6 narrow sleeping pods that looked more like coffins than beds. It was clinical. Unforgiving. Perfect. The first full Mars crew was already assembled inside, undergoing pre-mission psych stabilization. Rachel Lynn had been selected as commander, and the others, an engineer, a botanist, a geophysicist, and a former Air Force pilot, each wore the same nervous anticipation Ava felt in her gut. But they weren't just nervous about Mars. They were nervous about her. Ava wasn't just part of the mission, she was now part of the system. The only person with a fully integrated version of the next-gen Neuralink. The one they would rely on when everything else failed. No pressure. She entered the dome's main hub, greeted by a hiss of sealing airlocks and the subtle shift in acoustic pressure that came with stepping into another reality. It was colder inside, sterile, humming with quiet energy. Rachel met her at the inner hatch, helmet tucked under her arm. "You made it," she said. "You look different." Ava smirked. "Smarter?" "No. Focused. Like the room doesn't intimidate you." "It doesn't." "It should," Rachel said, walking beside her. "Because everything that happens in here will try to break you. We're not just rehearsing. We're rehearsing for death." "Optimistic. Realistic," Rachel said. "Out there, even hope is a limited resource." Ava glanced around. Cables coiled along the ceiling. Control consoles embedded in the walls. Real Martian dust smeared along the seams of the oxygen exchangers, intentionally applied to simulate malfunction rates. There was even a delay loop on the communication network, introducing a 7-minute lag to mimic Earth-Mars distance. She loved it. "How's your implant?" Rachel asked. "Stable," Ava replied. "Learning faster every day. The emotional loop's the most interesting part." "Why?" "Because it's learning who I am. How I feel. It mirrors me, then helps me shift back if I fall off balance." Rachel gave a long, low whistle. "I can't tell if that's incredible or terrifying." "Both," Ava said. Training began the next morning. Every task was timed, recorded, analyzed. They woke at 5 a.m., cycled through 90-minute drills, endured simulated emergencies, practiced oxygen rationing, endured low-light drills, pressure loss scenarios, decompression chambers, manual rover repairs in 130-degree heat, hydroponic stabilization under biohazard threats, and mental fatigue trials. Ava's implant recorded her neural response to each situation in real time. When Subject 2, Dr. Oliver Brooks, collapsed from heat exhaustion during a resource retrieval sim, Ava mentally initiated a trauma protocol and directed Ethan to initiate a cooldown. The implant had already begun regulating her own pulse before she'd made the call. "You stayed calm," Ethan said afterward. "Calmer than anyone else." "I didn't feel calm," she replied. "I felt like I was standing inside my own fear, but it couldn't touch me." "And that doesn't scare you?" "It should," Ava admitted. "But it doesn't. Because I didn't feel numb. I felt sharp." Later that week, they ran a sim called The Dark, 6 hours in total habitat blackout, no communication, no environmental controls, no visibility. Just sound, movement, and the link. Ava led the crew through the scenario using only thought-based command sharing, each of them linked through a localized network that let them sense intention, direction, and basic emotion. The implant amplified leadership, allowed trust to travel through silence. When they emerged into the artificial sunrise, Rachel stared at Ava like she was seeing a future that didn't need words. "You made us feel like we weren't alone," she said. "Not even in the dark." "You weren't," Ava said. "None of us are. Not anymore." But not everything went smoothly. In week 3, Ava began to experience phantom memories during sleep cycles, sensory loops from the simulation replaying unpredictably. She would wake up and feel the sensation of Martian wind, though the dome was sealed. Once, she swore she smelled smoke, but there was none. Theo monitored her closely. "The emotional echo is stronger than we predicted," he said. "The system's remembering what you felt, not just what you did." "And that's a problem." "Not necessarily. But if the implant holds on too tightly, you'll start responding to memories as if they're real. Hallucinations. Delusions. We need to adjust the compression algorithm." Ava agreed, reluctantly. But deep down, she didn't want to lose the echoes. They felt realer than anything. They felt like Mars was already reaching for her. Meanwhile, public pressure mounted. News broke of the 6-person crew preparing to leave Earth for a minimum of 5 years. Networks ran endless specials on Neuralink, on Ava, on the ethics of deep brain modification. Some called her a pioneer. Others called her a cyborg. Protesters gathered outside Neuralink HQ, waving signs, "The mind belongs to God, stop the thought police, no chip, no chains." Ava ignored them. Her father had once said the moment people stop calling you crazy is the moment you're not doing anything brave. Then came the announcement. Elon Musk himself, silent for months, working quietly behind the scenes, released a video from Boca Chica. "Mars isn't just a place. It's a test," he said, eyes fixed on the camera. "We're not just proving we can survive there. We're proving the human mind can evolve fast enough to meet the challenge. Ava's work is the future. Not because it replaces who we are, but because it protects who we might become." The video went viral. Public opinion shifted, slowly, but tangibly. Suddenly, Neuralink wasn't about surveillance or control. It was about adaptation. Ava became a symbol. Not of perfection, but of readiness. She didn't celebrate. Instead, she worked harder. Slept less. Tuned the implant's algorithms at night, refining emotional dampening protocols and memory loop filters. She asked the system to keep her honest, to tell her when she was lying to herself. It did. One night, alone in her pod, she asked it a question: "Am I still me?" The response came in a pulse. Warm. Balanced. A single word on her screen: yes. She smiled. Then she cried. Not because she was afraid, but because the system hadn't dulled her tears. It had given her permission to feel them. In the final week of training, the crew gathered outside the dome, beneath a starfield so bright and massive it made Ava's chest ache. They sat in silence for a long time. Then Rachel spoke. "You ready?" "No," Ava said honestly. "But I want to be." "That's enough," Rachel said. "That's how you know you're still human." And Ava believed her. The countdown clock on the launch pad was more than a timer, it was a heartbeat, syncing with the nervous pulses of everyone gathered around Boca Chica spaceport. Ava stood just beyond the secured perimeter, helmet in hand, eyes fixed on the gleaming starship towering above the sandy horizon. The ship was a titan, a promise of human audacity forged in stainless steel and fire, poised to carry humanity's future beyond Earth's fragile cradle. Behind her, Ethan checked the final readouts on his tablet, brow furrowed but lips pressed into a determined line. The air buzzed with static tension, 1,000 overlapping emotions: excitement, fear, hope, swirling like charged particles in a storm. "Ready?" Ethan asked quietly. Ava nodded, heart steadying. "As ready as I'll ever be." The team assembled for final briefings had spent months perfecting this moment, rehearsing every contingency, every failure mode. Neuralink technicians scanned Ava's implant one last time, confirming optimal function. Her enhanced neural pathways were synchronized with the ship's AI systems, designed to aid navigation, decision-making, and real-time problem-solving. It was a symbiotic leap forward, human intuition fused with machine precision. But there was no denying the risk. Neuralink was still experimental, and Starship's deep space mission was unprecedented. The launch wasn't just a beginning, it was a gamble. Elon Musk himself appeared on the control tower balcony, his sharp eyes scanning the crowd. He gave a brief nod, a silent signal that the mission was greenlit. "All systems go," the launch director intoned. Ava's thoughts drifted to her father, his quiet courage, the sacrifices that had shaped her journey. She whispered a silent promise. To make this count. To carry every hope tethered to her heartbeat. The crew, 6 pioneers, climbed the ramp and entered Starship. Each step was a ritual of resolve, a passage through the threshold between Earth's safety and the unknown. Inside, the capsule was compact but efficient. The crew secured themselves into custom seats, neural helmets syncing to the link networks, helmets glowing faintly with data streams flowing between minds and machines. Ava's implant hummed softly, the subclavicular housing nestled beneath her skin like a second heart. As the hatch sealed with a hiss, the ship's voice filled the cabin. "Welcome aboard Starship. Estimated launch in T-10 minutes." Outside, the crowd fell silent, eyes turned skyward. The engines ignited, and a low rumble vibrated through the ground. Flames spewed as the ship lifted, ascending with a grace that belied its massive frame. The moment the boosters cut, and Starship arced toward space, Ava felt a strange calm. The link processed the sensory overload, vibration, acceleration, heat, and filtered it through a prism of calm. Her mind was a cathedral of clarity amid chaos. "Trajectory nominal," the pilot reported. "Neuralink system stable." The ship pierced the atmosphere, leaving behind a shrinking blue orb. In the silence of orbit, Ava's thoughts deepened. The Earth was breathtaking, a swirling marble of blues, greens, and whites. But her gaze drifted to the black void beyond. Mars was waiting. The journey to Mars was not just physical, it was a test of endurance, of adaptation. Over the next weeks, the crew relied heavily on their neural implants. Routine tasks like navigation or system checks became seamless mind-machine collaborations. The link filtered stress signals, offering calming stimuli when anxiety threatened. Yet, space was unforgiving. Microgravity challenged their bodies. Isolation gnawed at their spirits. The implant helped but could not erase loneliness. One night, Ava floated in the dim glow of the habitat module, staring out at the stars. A message from Earth crackled through with a 7-minute delay. "Keep going," Ethan's voice said, static laced with hope. She smiled faintly. The crew gathered for their first neural interface debrief, sharing data streams that revealed unexpected emotional patterns. Stress spikes coincided with communication delays, fatigue lowered cognitive response times. Neuralink's adaptive algorithms began tweaking sensory input and emotional modulation in real time. "It's like the implant is learning us as much as we're learning it," Ava observed. "A living system," Ethan agreed. But not everything was perfect. During a routine EVA simulation, Ava experienced a sudden neural feedback loop, a cascade of overlapping sensory data that overwhelmed her. The implant's emotional damping systems kicked in just in time, but the incident left her shaken. Theo's voice came through the calm but urgent. "We're analyzing the feedback anomaly. It might be a system overload or an environmental interference." The crew tightened protocols. Every task became a dance on the edge of human-machine symbiosis. The boundary between self and implant blurred, raising questions Ava hadn't expected. Who was in control? Her or the link? At times, she felt like a passenger in her own body, guided by impulses not entirely her own. And yet, the implant also amplified her humanity, empathy for the crew, clarity in crisis, endurance beyond natural limits. The paradox was unsettling but exhilarating. One day, a deep space storm disrupted external sensors, forcing the crew to rely heavily on neural predictions to navigate safely. Ava's implant projected a solution path, synthesizing fragmented data and emotional states into a cohesive plan. The ship's AI followed her lead. The crisis passed with minimal damage, earning Ava quiet respect from the crew. "You're becoming the neural captain," Rachel said with a grin. Ava laughed, but inside, she wondered if she deserved the title. As days turned into weeks, Mars drew closer. The red planet loomed large on their screens, a stark contrast to the vibrant Earth fading behind. Ava's implant began integrating external data streams from orbital satellites, preparing her brain for the sensory assault of landing, gravity shifts, atmospheric entry, habitat systems engagement. Training merged with reality. They practiced emergency drills with neural interface precision, simulating system failures and decompression events, each failure honing their responses. The crew's bond strengthened, forged in the crucible of shared vulnerability and shared technology. They were no longer individuals, they were a neural collective, intertwined through implants and trust. Yet, beneath the technological marvel, Ava felt the weight of human fragility. She remembered the protests, the fears, the voices that called Neuralink unnatural or dangerous. But here, in the void between worlds, she saw a new definition of humanity, one that embraced augmentation without losing soul. One that dared to rewrite its own future. On the eve of Mars orbit insertion, the crew gathered for a final neural sync session. Their thoughts aligned, fears voiced silently through data pulses. Ava closed her eyes and felt the link expand, a web of connection spanning mind to mind, heart to heart. For a moment, the vast loneliness of space dissolved into a shared warmth. Tomorrow, Rachel whispered, we touch another world. Ava's heart surged. The mission was no longer about technology or science alone. It was about becoming human in ways they had never imagined, beyond flesh, beyond fear, beyond Earth. As Starship began its descent toward Mars, Ava braced herself. The neural journey had only just begun. The red dust settled like a silent witness beneath the heavy boots of the first human crew to touch Mars's surface, and Ava felt the weight of history settle on her chest alongside the crushing gravity, just 38% of Earth's, yet enough to remind her that nothing was easy here. The starship had landed with a shudder that rippled through the crew cabin, nerves tightened like guitar strings on the edge of a symphony. As the airlock hissed open, revealing the barren, windswept landscape of the Jezero crater, a stillness filled the habitat module, a breath held by the universe itself. Ava's neural implant hummed quietly, tuning her senses to the alien environment. The link amplified every detail, the fine particles drifting in the thin atmosphere, the subtle shifts in temperature, even the distant, ghostly echoes of past riverbeds. As she stepped onto the Martian soil, the implant relayed sensory feedback calibrated to prevent overload, letting her feel the rough texture of regolith, the crunch beneath her boots, while filtering out harmful radiation cues. The first step was ceremonial, broadcast live to millions back on Earth, but for Ava, it was intensely personal, a moment where technology and humanity intertwined. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The familiar prompt ran through her mind, a tether to the world she'd left behind but also a bridge to those who dared to dream beyond. Commander Rachel Lynn stepped beside her, scanning the horizon with a mixture of awe and calculation. It's beautiful. Harsh. But alive, Rachel said. Ava nodded, feeling a strange kinship with this hostile place. They had trained for this, but training was nothing compared to the surreal reality of standing where no human had ever set foot. Every breath filtered through their suits, every movement calculated. Yet, beneath the suits, their minds were connected by the Neuralink network, a silent conversation of thoughts, emotions, and instincts. The link kept them grounded, connected, and alert. They set to work immediately, deploying environmental sensors, establishing communications relays, and unpacking the hydroponics pods that would be their lifeline. Ava's implant ran constant diagnostics, calibrating her neural pathways to optimize focus and reduce cognitive fatigue. Every task was precise yet exhausting, a dance of survival in a landscape that offered no forgiveness for error. As the days passed, the crew's bond deepened, strengthened by shared challenges and the intimacy of their neural connection. The implant allowed them to anticipate each other's needs, coordinate complex repairs with silent efficiency, and share moments of quiet humor that eased the tension. But Mars was not just a backdrop, it was an active, unpredictable force. Dust storms swept across the plains, coating solar panels and disrupting sensors. Communication delays with Earth extended the isolation, forcing the crew to rely on their own judgment and the neural network support. Ava struggled with moments of doubt. The implant, while a marvel, sometimes felt like a double-edged sword. It amplified her emotions as much as it regulated them, making the loneliness sharper, the risks more immediate. At night, she would close her eyes inside the habitat pod and feel the echo of Earth's blue skies, a ghostly memory reinforced by Neuralink's emotional feedback loops. One evening, during a particularly fierce dust storm, the habitat's oxygen scrubbers faltered. The crew was forced into emergency protocols, sealing compartments and activating backup systems. Ava's implant was critical, filtering sensory input to prevent panic and help maintain cognitive clarity under pressure. The link pulsed with quiet reassurance, a neural lifeline threading through her mind. After hours of tense work, the scrubbers stabilized, but the incident left an indelible mark. It was a stark reminder that survival depended not just on technology, but on trust in each other and in themselves. In the quiet aftermath, Ava found herself reflecting on her journey. From the deserts of Nevada to this alien world. Neuralink had rewired her brain, yes, but it had also rewired her soul. She thought of her father, his words echoing, "The moment people stop calling you crazy is when you stop dreaming." Here, on Mars, she was crazy, dreaming wildly, and somehow, that was enough. The mission continued with rigorous scientific exploration, collecting soil samples, testing water ice deposits, and experimenting with Martian agriculture in the hydroponic modules. Each success felt like a small victory against the vast unknown. Yet, there was more at stake than survival or science. They were pioneers of a new era, where human consciousness blended with technology to extend the frontier of possibility. Neuralink was not just a tool, it was a catalyst for evolution. Ava's thoughts often drifted to the future, what it would mean for humanity to be no longer bound by Earth, to have minds capable of syncing across planets, sharing knowledge instantaneously despite millions of miles. The possibilities were staggering, but so were the risks. One night, as Ava reviewed mission data, she detected a subtle anomaly in her implant's performance, a slight deviation in signal transmission that could indicate neural fatigue or software degradation. She reported it immediately. Theo, monitoring from Earth, reassured her. "We're running a patch. Neuralink's architecture is designed to self-heal. But keep monitoring." Ava nodded, appreciating the delicate balance between human biology and machine precision. The days turned into weeks. The crew began planning for their return mission, assembling data and samples that would transform understanding of Mars, and of human potential. The mission was not just about planting flags but about planting ideas, that humanity could adapt, survive, and thrive beyond Earth's limits. As Ava prepared for another EVA, she paused at the habitat's airlock, looking back at the barren expanse that was now home. The neural connection pulsed softly beneath her skin. A constant reminder of the bond between human and machine. She whispered into the silence, "We're rewriting what it means to be human." And on Mars, beneath alien skies, the future was taking shape. Back on Earth, the news of the first human steps on Mars dominated headlines, inspiring a wave of excitement and debate. Yet, behind the fanfare, a quieter revolution was unfolding within Ava's own mind and those of her crewmates, a revolution powered by Neuralink's deep integration with human cognition. The implant was no longer just a tool for survival, it was becoming a new way of experiencing reality, a lens through which the boundaries of thought and perception were expanding. Each day aboard the starship and now on Mars, Ava noticed subtle shifts in her awareness. Complex tasks that once demanded intense concentration became almost automatic, the neural network optimizing pathways in real time. Her senses sharpened, not just through technology but through the rewiring of her brain itself. Emotions, too, evolved. Neuralink's emotional modulation wasn't about suppression but about enhancing resilience and empathy. Ava could sense the undercurrents of stress and hope in her teammates with uncanny clarity, sharing not just data but feelings. This new form of connection forged bonds stronger than any spoken word. Yet, with this intimacy came profound questions. Where did Ava end and the implant begin? In moments of silence, she sometimes felt a disquieting sense of detachment, as if her thoughts were not entirely her own. The link's AI, designed to learn and adapt, sometimes anticipated her decisions before she consciously made them. Was this evolution or erosion of self? The philosophical tension mirrored broader societal debates unfolding back on Earth. Skeptics worried about privacy, autonomy, and the potential for control. Advocates hailed Neuralink as a next step in human evolution. Ava understood both views but found her own perspective shaped by lived experience. On Mars, survival demanded trust, not just in technology, but in the blurred line between human intuition and artificial insight. She remembered her father's words about dreaming, but now added her own: evolution demands risk. Neuralink was her bridge to that risk and reward. During a neural sync session, the crew experimented with what they called thought sharing, a raw, unfiltered exchange of memories and sensations through their implants. The experience was surreal and vulnerable, exposing the deepest fears and hopes locked inside each mind. Ava hesitated but then shared a vivid memory of her childhood, running through Nevada's desert with her father, feeling the sun on her face and the promise of endless horizons. Her teammates responded with empathy waves that washed over her like a warm tide. These moments deepened their unity, reinforcing the idea that the future of humanity might be collective consciousness, not isolated individuals. Yet, such openness also carried risks. In one session, a software glitch caused a brief but intense emotional feedback loop, sending one crew member into panic. The incident was a sobering reminder that the frontier of mind-machine fusion was fragile and unpredictable. The crew's neural technicians worked tirelessly, patching vulnerabilities and refining algorithms. Ava marveled at the seamless collaboration across continents, a testament to the interconnected world Neuralink helped create. Back on Mars, the team's work continued with renewed purpose. The neural implants enabled unprecedented data processing speed, allowing them to analyze Martian samples on the fly, coordinate complex construction tasks for habitat expansion, and troubleshoot equipment failures with intuitive precision. Neuralink became an extension of their collective brain. Ava herself grew into a new role, as both a scientist and a neural navigator, guiding the crew's mental and emotional states through challenges. She felt an increasing responsibility to balance technological potential with human limits, to ensure the implants served as a tool of empowerment rather than domination. The psychological impact of extended space travel was still largely unknown. Neuralink's ability to modulate mood and cognitive function offered hope but also raised ethical questions. Were they engineering not just survival but personality? One evening, Ava found herself in a rare moment of quiet reflection beneath Mars's twilight sky. The stars above twinkled cold and distant, yet inside her head, the warmth of the link pulsed, a heartbeat shared between flesh and machine. She thought about the generations to come, children who might be born with implants as natural as lungs or eyes. What would it mean to be human then? As the mission progressed, Ava's body adapted to Mars's environment, but so did her mind. Neuralink facilitated neuroplasticity, accelerating learning and adaptation. Tasks that would have taken hours on Earth now took minutes. Her perception of time itself seemed to shift, a subjective expansion and contraction shaped by the implant's rhythmic signals. Yet, with accelerated cognition came moments of alienation. Ava sometimes felt trapped inside a hyper-aware mind, disconnected from simple pleasures and basic human rhythms. She longed for the grounding comfort of Earth's unpredictability. Neuralink's developers back home continued to push boundaries. Updates arrived over secure links, adding new features, enhanced dream modulation, creative problem-solving modes, and even rudimentary neural encryption to protect privacy. The software evolved as rapidly as the hardware. Ava's identity evolved alongside it. One day, during a scheduled mental health check, Ava revealed a surprising insight to the onboard psychologist, herself. Through neural introspection, she realized she was becoming less reactive and more reflective, less impulsive and more deliberate. Neuralink was reshaping her personality, fostering maturity born not just of experience but of engineered neurobiology. She understood this was not an endpoint but a journey. The line between human and post-human blurred. Back on Earth, Elon Musk continued to push the vision outward. Mars was just the beginning. Neuralink was slated for integration with upcoming AI systems, deepening the symbiosis between human minds and machine intelligence. Ethical debates raged louder, but Ava felt a quiet confidence. From her vantage point on Mars, connected by 1,000 lines of code and shared experience, she saw the promise, a future where human potential was amplified beyond imagination. Yet, she also carried the cautionary knowledge that every great leap carried shadows, the risk of losing oneself in the machine, the dangers of dependence, and the challenge of preserving humanity's soul amid silicon and circuitry. As she prepared for another day on the red planet, Ava whispered to the neural network, "We are more than the sum of our parts. Together, we will find the way." The mind-machine frontier was vast and uncertain, but for the first time in history, humanity had crossed the threshold, and was ready to explore what lay beyond. Mars was no longer just a distant dream or a cold, alien world to Ava and her crew. It had begun to feel like home, strange and unfamiliar yet undeniably theirs. The habitat modules hummed with life, a fragile oasis nestled among rust-colored plains and towering cliffs. Yet, beneath the surface of scientific achievement, a deeper current flowed, an emotional tide that pulled at Ava's heartstrings as strongly as the planet's weak gravity. The Neuralink implants that connected the crew were a constant presence, syncing thoughts, moods, and memories in a way that blurred the boundaries between individual and collective. But as days stretched into months, Ava realized something profound: no matter how advanced the technology, the human need for connection to Earth, their roots, their past, remained a powerful force. She spent hours reviewing messages from loved ones, videos of sunsets, laughter, and everyday life back home. Neuralink's data compression and transmission technology allowed near real-time exchanges despite the vast distance, but the 7-minute delay remained an unyielding reminder of their separation. One evening, as the habitat lights dimmed to simulate a Martian night, Ava sat quietly by the viewport, watching the pale blue dot of Earth shimmer in the distant black sky. A surge of homesickness washed over her. She realized that even with Neuralink's immersive interfaces and emotional modulation, no algorithm could replicate the warmth of human presence or the unpredictability of life on Earth. Yet, Neuralink also offered a new kind of solace, a virtual sanctuary where memories could be relived and emotions shared across the void. Ava used the implant's immersive memory playback to revisit moments with her father, her childhood home, the Nevada desert where she had first dreamed of the stars. The sensory detail was breathtaking. She could smell the dry earth, feel the sun's warmth, hear the distant call of birds. The technology transformed nostalgia from a fleeting emotion into a vivid experience, bridging time and space. But these sessions also reminded her of what was lost: friends she might never see again, seasons she would miss, the simple unpredictability of life on a vibrant planet. The Neuralink network connected the crew in ways that transcended speech, but it could not replace the tactile, imperfect beauty of human touch and face-to-face presence. As the months wore on, the crew faced challenges both technical and emotional. The monotony of the Martian environment tested their resilience. Neuralink helped by adapting neural stimuli to mitigate depression and anxiety, but emotional undercurrents ran deep. Ava found herself acting as an informal counselor, her implant allowing her to detect subtle changes in mood and thought patterns among her teammates. She encouraged openness, fostering a virtual space where fears and hopes could be shared safely. One night, during a neural group session, Ethan confessed his struggle with loneliness. His implant had been filtering out emotional highs and lows, but beneath the surface, the weight of isolation bore down heavily. Ava listened, responding not just with words but with waves of empathetic data transmitted through their links, a silent embrace across minds. "We're not alone," she assured him, even millions of miles from Earth. The shared experience strengthened the crew's bond, reinforcing the idea that connection was more than physical proximity, it was a meeting of minds and hearts. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Elon Musk and his team closely monitored the mission's progress. Neuralink's integration with AI systems had advanced, enabling a new form of remote collaboration. Specialists could interact directly with the crew's neural networks, offering guidance, troubleshooting, and even teaching complex skills through neural upload. Ava marveled at this new dimension of teamwork. Experts thousands of miles away became immediate collaborators through the neural bridge. But the interface also sparked debate. Critics questioned the ethics of remote neural intervention. Could this be a slippery slope to control or loss of autonomy? Ava understood the concerns but had lived the reality. The difference between help and intrusion was trust, built through transparency and respect. On Mars, scientific exploration pressed forward. The crew uncovered signs that hinted at Mars's wetter, warmer past, clues that fueled hopes for future terraforming. Neuralink enabled rapid data analysis, accelerating discoveries that might have taken years on Earth. Yet, Ava was keenly aware of the paradox. To build a future on Mars, they needed to remember Earth, not just as a home, but as a blueprint for life's fragile complexity. As the mission's midpoint approached, Ava received a message from her father, recorded before departure but timed to arrive now. Watching his familiar smile, hearing his voice, she felt a surge of strength. "Keep dreaming," he said. "The stars are just the beginning." She replied with a neural message, embedding not just words but images and emotions, a testament to the profound new language they had forged. One day, during a routine EVA, Ava's implant detected a subtle spike in radiation levels. The habitat's shielding had weakened. The incident sparked a flurry of activity, repairs, system recalibrations, and intense neural coordination. The danger was real, but so was their resolve. Neuralink's adaptive systems modulated stress responses, helping the crew stay focused. The episode reinforced the delicate balance they maintained, between human fragility and technological strength. In quiet moments, Ava pondered the future. Neuralink was more than a mission tool, it was a paradigm shift in human experience. The mission to Mars was as much a voyage inward as outward, an exploration of consciousness, identity, and connection. The echoes of home resonated deeply, reminding her that no matter how far humanity reached, the roots of love, memory, and shared humanity remained the foundation. As the Martian sunset bathed the landscape in deep crimson, Ava smiled softly, feeling the neural link pulse gently beneath her skin, a steady rhythm of hope and belonging. In this alien world, she had found a new home, connected not just by wires and signals but by the enduring human spirit. The mission to Mars was no longer just about survival or scientific discovery, it had become a proving ground for the next frontier of human evolution, one where the boundaries between biology and technology dissolved, and consciousness itself could be reshaped. Ava, once a skeptic of the neural interface's full potential, now stood at the center of this transformation, her mind intertwined with the vast neural network that connected crew, Earth, and AI systems in a complex web of thought and emotion. Neuralink software updates had introduced a new feature called Neural Mesh, an advanced cognitive interface allowing the crew to share not only memories and emotions but also creative ideas, problem-solving processes, and even dreams. This collective consciousness was unlike anything humanity had experienced. It was exhilarating but also disorienting. Ava found herself navigating waves of shared experiences that sometimes blurred the line between self and other. In moments of sleep, the boundaries dissolved completely, dreams merging into a shared mental landscape where fears, hopes, and imaginations coalesced. The potential for innovation was staggering. Problems that once required hours or days of collaboration could now be solved in minutes, minds synchronizing in real time. The crew designed new tools, optimized life support systems, and brainstormed strategies for future colonization efforts with unprecedented speed and creativity. Yet, the neural mesh raised profound questions about identity and privacy. How much of their minds did they want to share? Was there a danger in losing individuality within the collective? Ava grappled with these questions as she watched her teammates navigate their own limits. Some embraced the openness, eager to connect fully, others retreated, needing solitude and mental boundaries. The system was designed to respect personal thresholds, but the psychological complexity was immense. Neuralink's AI companions played a crucial role, acting as moderators and guides within the mesh, helping to balance the collective flow. Ava formed a unique bond with one AI entity, named Luma, whose gentle voice and insightful prompts felt almost human. Luma helped her process overwhelming sensory input and emotional surges, serving as both mentor and friend. The interplay between human intuition and artificial intelligence became a central theme of the mission. Neuralink's evolution was not just technical but philosophical, a co-creation between minds and machines. During a critical project to expand the habitat, the crew encountered a serious engineering challenge. The Martian dust was clogging the solar array's delicate mechanisms faster than expected, threatening their energy supply. Traditional solutions failed, but the neural mesh enabled rapid ideation. Ava and the team visualized and tested new designs in their shared mental space, collaborating with AI simulations in real time. The breakthrough came when one crew member combined a biomimetic filter inspired by Earth's cactus spines with a self-cleaning nanocoating suggested by Luma. The solution was elegant and efficient, demonstrating the power of integrated neural collaboration. This success bolstered the crew's confidence and underscored the importance of the neural frontier. As the mission continued, Ava noticed subtle changes in her perception of time and self. Neuralink's temporal modulation features allowed her to stretch or compress subjective experience, enabling intense focus during tasks and restorative rest during downtime. The implant's plasticity-promoting functions accelerated learning and memory consolidation, turning her mind into a finely tuned instrument. But these enhancements came with costs. Ava sometimes felt a haunting sense of disconnection from ordinary human rhythms and emotions, a tension between enhanced cognition and the simple joys of unmediated experience. She confided in Rachel, who shared similar struggles. Together, they experimented with implant settings, seeking balance between optimization and authenticity. The psychological journey mirrored the physical mission's challenges. Ava's role evolved into that of a neural guide, helping teammates navigate mental landscapes reshaped by technology. She organized regular sessions to explore and express emotions safely within the neural mesh, fostering resilience and trust. The emotional intimacy deepened, creating a profound sense of family among the crew. Meanwhile, the world beyond Mars watched with a mix of awe and apprehension. Neuralink's progress sparked heated debates about the future of humanity. Was this the dawn of a new species, post-human, transhuman, or something else entirely? Some feared loss of autonomy or ethical abuses, others celebrated unprecedented human potential. Ava found herself increasingly involved in outreach efforts, communicating with Earth through Neuralink-enabled broadcasts that shared not just data but the crew's lived experiences, hopes, and reflections. She aimed to humanize the technology, bridging the gap between futuristic vision and everyday life. One of the most challenging moments came when the neural mesh experienced an unexpected glitch, causing a temporary fusion of neural signals that overwhelmed several crew members with a flood of chaotic thoughts and emotions. The incident forced the team to reevaluate safety protocols and system redundancies. Ava led the recovery effort, guiding affected members through neural stabilization exercises and collaborating with Earth-based engineers to patch vulnerabilities. The episode was a stark reminder that the frontier was as dangerous as it was promising. Neuralink was more than hardware and software, it was a living experiment in human adaptation. As the mission neared its final phase, Ava reflected on how far they had come, from isolated individuals to a neural collective capable of transcending Earth's limitations. The integration of human minds with technology was no longer science fiction but lived reality, a profound reshaping of what it meant to be human. Yet, Ava also recognized the importance of maintaining connection to the core of human experience, empathy, creativity, love. The neural frontier was not a destination but a journey, one that required humility and care. Standing beneath Mars's endless sky, Ava whispered to Luma, "We are explorers of the mind as much as the stars. Let's make sure we don't lose ourselves along the way." The AI responded with its signature warmth, "Together, we will chart the course." In this new era of neural exploration, humanity's future was being rewired, one connection at a time. The Neuralink mission aboard the Martian habitat was entering a new phase where the fusion of human minds and artificial intelligence was no longer theoretical but a lived experience. Ava, having spent months embedded in this hybrid ecosystem, found herself constantly negotiating the delicate balance between autonomy and connection, control and surrender. Neuralink's advancements had brought unprecedented capabilities, from rapid learning to emotional synchronization, but with those came subtle tensions about what it meant to remain human. Ava's days were filled with complex tasks that required not just skill but a form of collective intelligence. The neural network connecting the crew functioned as a living organism, blending individual thoughts into a fluid, adaptive system. This mesh of minds could anticipate needs, distribute knowledge, and even share dreams, making teamwork seamless across Mars's harsh landscape. Yet, this integration also raised questions. How much of her identity was truly hers? When Luma, the AI companion, predicted her needs and preferences before she could articulate them, Ava felt a strange mix of relief and unease. The AI was a partner, but sometimes it felt like an echo chamber of her own thoughts, amplifying fears and hopes alike. One morning, while monitoring habitat systems, Ava noticed an anomaly in the neural interface logs, an unexpected pattern of neural activity that didn't align with any known cognitive process. Intrigued and concerned, she delved deeper, collaborating with Earth-based engineers via Neuralink's direct neural link. The anomaly was traced to a subtle interference caused by cosmic radiation, a reminder that Mars's environment, while conquered, still held unpredictable challenges. The engineers devised a software patch that enhanced neural shielding, a breakthrough that would protect future colonists from mental disruption. This episode underscored the fragility of their neural integration and the need for continuous adaptation. Meanwhile, Ava continued to explore the emotional landscape of the crew. Neuralink's emotional modulation features had been crucial in maintaining psychological stability during the isolation and stress of Mars. But emotions, Ava realized, were not mere biochemical reactions to be tuned, they were the fabric of human experience. She encouraged her team to embrace vulnerability, using the neural interface not just to suppress anxiety but to express hope, fear, and love openly. This openness transformed the crew dynamic, fostering a deep sense of trust and belonging. Neuralink enabled them to share raw emotional data, bypassing the barriers of language and interpretation. In one powerful session, Ava and her teammates engaged in what they called the heart sync, a neural convergence designed to share the core of their emotional states. The experience was transformative, a moment where isolation melted away and they became truly present to one another. For Ava, this was the heart of Neuralink's promise, not just technological enhancement but human connection amplified. On Earth, Elon Musk continued to push the boundaries of neural technology. The development of Neuralink 3.0 promised bidirectional interfaces capable of interfacing not only with individual brains but with external networks, AI systems, and even other humans on a collective scale. The ethical debates intensified, with some fearing loss of privacy, autonomy, and even free will. Ava understood these concerns intimately. She had lived through the benefits and dangers of neural fusion. The answer, she believed, lay in choice, transparency, and respect for the complexity of the human mind. As the mission progressed, Ava and her team experimented with advanced neural protocols, including mind mapping, a method to visualize and edit neural connections in real time. This capability opened new frontiers in self-understanding and mental health, allowing individuals to rewire destructive thought patterns or enhance cognitive strengths. The psychological impact was profound, but the process required skilled guidance to avoid unintended consequences. Ava took on a new role as a neural coach, helping her teammates navigate these internal landscapes safely. The integration of machine learning with neural plasticity created a feedback loop of constant growth and adjustment. Ava found herself evolving in ways she had never imagined, her personality subtly shifting, her perceptions deepening. Yet, with these changes came moments of introspection. Was she becoming something new, or losing parts of herself? The question lingered like a shadow. One evening, Ava initiated a neural dialogue with Luma, exploring these very doubts. The AI's response was thoughtful and surprisingly human. Evolution is neither loss nor gain but transformation. Your essence is the thread that weaves through change. The conversation comforted Ava but also challenged her to embrace the uncertainty of becoming. Beyond the internal journey, the crew faced external challenges. A sudden dust storm threatened the habitat's solar arrays, requiring rapid coordination to protect energy supplies. Neuralink's interface enabled split-second communication and synchronized action, turning potential disaster into a successful defense. The crew's ability to operate as a neural collective was proving essential not only for innovation but for survival. As Mars's seasons shifted, Ava reflected on the mission's broader implications. Neuralink was more than a tool for space exploration, it was a catalyst for redefining human potential and connection. The technology had woven together minds separated by millions of miles, blending human intuition with machine precision. Yet, Ava understood that technology alone was not enough. The true revolution lay in the values they chose to embody: empathy, trust, and the courage to face the unknown together. Standing beneath the cold Martian stars, Ava felt a surge of hope. Neuralink had opened a door, not just to new worlds but to new ways of being. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, she believed that humanity could navigate the neural frontier with both wisdom and heart. The promise of Neuralink and its seamless integration with Mars colonization masked an underlying truth: progress came with a cost. Ava, once energized by the thrill of discovery, now grappled with the profound weight of responsibility that her neural enhancements and leadership role demanded. Each breakthrough brought new possibilities, but also unforeseen consequences that tested her resilience and values. The crew's mission had transformed from a daring expedition into a pioneering experiment of human-machine symbiosis. Neuralink's implants enabled instantaneous data sharing, emotional attunement, and cognitive expansion. Yet, beneath the surface, tension simmered. Some crew members felt their individuality slipping, overwhelmed by the constant neural interconnectedness. The fine line between shared consciousness and lost identity was not always clear. Ava found herself mediating not just technical problems but psychological struggles. The neural interface was both a gift and a burden. One day, after an extended neural session designed to optimize problem-solving for a new terraforming protocol, Ava experienced an intense neural feedback loop, a glitch that caused her thoughts and emotions to spiral uncontrollably. The sensation was overwhelming, like being caught in a storm of her own mind amplified by the network. It was a stark reminder that despite all the safeguards, the neural frontier was still uncharted territory. With the help of Luma and Earth-based engineers, Ava underwent a recalibration process, carefully adjusting her implant's parameters. The recovery was slow, both physically and mentally, forcing her to confront the fragility of her enhanced mind. This vulnerability deepened her empathy for the crew, many of whom silently struggled with similar challenges. Meanwhile, the mission pressed on. Neuralink had facilitated the design and deployment of advanced robotic systems to prepare the Martian surface for future settlers. These machines, controlled through direct neural commands, operated with precision and adaptability. Ava marveled at the synergy between human creativity and robotic endurance, a dance of minds and machines rewriting the future of exploration. Yet, the success came with ethical dilemmas. As machines became extensions of human will, questions arose about agency and accountability. If a robot failed or caused harm, where did responsibility lie? Ava and her team engaged in ongoing discussions about the moral frameworks that must evolve alongside technology. On Earth, public opinion was polarized. Neuralink's vision of a neural collective stirred excitement but also fear. Critics warned of a future where privacy was obsolete, where minds could be hacked or controlled. Ava's broadcasts and messages sought to demystify the technology, emphasizing choice, consent, and the irreplaceable value of human dignity. She believed transparency was essential to building trust between pioneers and the world they represented. The psychological toll of these debates was felt acutely on Mars. Crew members sensed the weight of being ambassadors for humanity's neural future. The pressure was compounded by isolation, the stark Martian environment, and the demands of constant adaptation. Ava prioritized mental health initiatives, using Neuralink's capabilities not only to monitor but to nurture well-being. Meditation, neural biofeedback, and shared storytelling sessions became lifelines, reminding the crew of their shared humanity. In moments of solitude, Ava often revisited memories of Earth, her family, the deserts of Nevada, the vibrant cities alive with noise and color. Neuralink's immersive memory playback technology allowed her to re-experience these moments with striking realism, offering comfort but also a bittersweet reminder of what they had left behind. As the mission's second year unfolded, Ava recognized a shift in her own identity. Neuralink's enhancements had sharpened her intellect, expanded her emotional range, and connected her to a vast network of minds. But the cost was subtle, a sense of detachment from the raw, unfiltered self she once was. This internal tension mirrored the larger questions humanity faced. How to embrace the future without losing the essence of what makes us human. One evening, Ava convened a neural forum with the crew to address these feelings openly. The session was raw and powerful, a collective exploration of fears, hopes, and the evolving nature of self. Neuralink allowed them to share not just words but feelings and memories, creating an unprecedented space for vulnerability and healing. The experience reaffirmed the importance of balance, between connection and solitude, enhancement and authenticity. Amid these internal challenges, the mission celebrated a milestone, the first successful cultivation of Martian soil to support plant life. This breakthrough was a testament to the combined ingenuity of human minds and AI, enabled by the neural network's rapid data processing and collaborative problem-solving. The moment was bittersweet, a symbol of hope for future generations and a reminder of the fragility of life in this new world. As Ava looked out over the Martian plains, she contemplated the vastness of the journey ahead. Neuralink was rewriting the blueprint of humanity, offering tools to transcend physical limits and connect minds across space and time. But progress demanded humility, care, and an unwavering commitment to preserving the core of human experience. The neural frontier was a landscape of promise and peril, where every step forward required reflection on the weight of what was gained, and what might be lost. Ava whispered to herself, in rewiring the future, we must never forget the roots that ground us. The mission was far from over, but with each challenge and triumph, humanity was taking its next great leap, toward the stars, toward new minds, toward the infinite possibilities of connection. Life on Mars had settled into a rhythm that was unlike any other human experience. Neuralink's technology had blurred the boundaries between individual and collective minds, and Ava found herself part of a neural ecosystem that thrived on shared cognition and empathy. This collective awakening was more than a scientific milestone, it was a profound evolution in human consciousness. The neural mesh, now an integral part of daily life, enabled seamless communication not just of information but of feelings, intuitions, and creative sparks. The crew's neural harmony amplified problem-solving capabilities and deepened emotional bonds, transforming isolated pioneers into a single living organism of thought and purpose. Yet, this interconnectedness carried risks. Ava understood that the power to merge minds demanded vigilance against losing the precious uniqueness of each individual. The neural interface was designed with safeguards, but as neural signals intertwined more intimately, the potential for unintended influence loomed. Ava spent hours studying the fine balance of autonomy within the collective, refining protocols that protected mental sovereignty while nurturing connection. The AI companions, led by Luma, played a critical role in monitoring neural flows and detecting early signs of cognitive overload or influence imbalance. Their gentle interventions preserved the delicate dance between unity and independence. One afternoon, a breakthrough came during a mind-mapping session when the crew collectively visualized a complex terraforming algorithm. Neuralink allowed them to overlay mental models and instantly simulate environmental changes. The session lasted hours, but the mental fatigue was offset by exhilarating discovery. Ava marveled at how this neural symphony created insights impossible for any single mind alone. The mission's success depended increasingly on this collective cognition. Meanwhile, communication with Earth evolved as well. Neuralink-enabled broadcasts transmitted not only data but experiential vignettes, shared memories and emotions that brought audiences closer to the Martian reality. Ava participated in interactive neural dialogues with people worldwide, answering questions, sharing hopes, and addressing fears. The response was overwhelming, a testament to humanity's hunger for connection beyond physical limits. As the mission progressed, Ava encountered an unexpected personal revelation. Through the neural mesh, she accessed memories and emotions of her crewmates in ways that revealed hidden depths and struggles. This shared vulnerability forged profound empathy, but also blurred lines between self and other. Ava sometimes struggled to discern where her feelings ended and another's began. This neural intimacy challenged her sense of identity and required careful reflection. She turned to Luma for guidance, engaging in neural meditations designed to strengthen boundaries while preserving empathy. These sessions became rituals, essential for maintaining mental clarity. The crew also faced external challenges. A series of technical malfunctions threatened the habitat's life support systems, requiring rapid neural coordination and innovative solutions. Neuralink's interface allowed real-time collaboration between human intuition and AI precision, enabling the crew to diagnose and repair issues faster than traditional methods. The crisis was a stark reminder that despite technological advances, survival on Mars remained precarious. Ava's leadership was tested as she balanced urgency with calm, guiding the neural collective through stress and uncertainty. The incident deepened the crew's trust in one another and in the neural interface's capabilities. On a more philosophical note, Ava pondered the implications of the collective awakening for human society at large. Neuralink was not merely a tool for space exploration, it was a catalyst for redefining consciousness itself. The possibility of neural collectives raised questions about individuality, freedom, and the future of culture. Could shared cognition foster greater understanding and peace? Or might it threaten the diversity that fuels creativity? Ava believed the answer lay in choice and ethical stewardship. The neural frontier demanded new frameworks of consent, privacy, and responsibility, ones that embraced complexity and nuance. To prepare for the eventual arrival of new settlers, the crew began developing training protocols that incorporated neural integration from the outset. Prospective colonists would undergo cognitive and emotional conditioning designed to optimize adaptation to the neural ecosystem. Ava helped design immersive simulations that prepared minds for both the exhilaration and challenges of neural fusion. These programs balanced enhancement with grounding practices, ensuring newcomers retained their sense of self. The neural awakening extended beyond the crew, influencing Mars's growing ecological systems. Neuralink-enabled sensors and AI worked in tandem to monitor environmental health, guiding terraforming efforts with precision and care. Ava often marveled at how the interconnectedness of mind and machine mirrored the interconnectedness of life itself. This harmony was fragile but full of promise. In quiet moments, Ava reflected on her journey, from a wary skeptic to a pioneer of the neural collective. Neuralink had expanded her mind and heart, weaving her into a greater tapestry of consciousness. She recognized that the true power of this technology was not just in cognitive enhancement but in deepening empathy and connection. As the Martian sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the red landscape, Ava whispered a promise to herself and the neural collective: together, we will chart new paths, not just across space, but within the infinite universe of mind. The collective awakening was not the end of the journey, but a beginning, an invitation to explore the boundless possibilities of connection, understanding, and evolution. Despite the vastness of Mars and the neural symphony that connected the crew, echoes of Earth resonated strongly in Ava's mind and heart. Neuralink's immersive capabilities allowed her to revisit not only physical memories but cultural and emotional landscapes that shaped her identity. Yet, with each journey deeper into the neural frontier, Ava wrestled with the question of belonging. What did it mean to be human when your mind was tethered to machines and millions of miles from home? Neuralink offered vivid, multisensory memory replays that felt as tangible as reality itself. Ava could walk through her childhood home in Arizona, feel the desert heat, hear the laughter of her family, and taste the homemade meals. These experiences brought comfort and bittersweet nostalgia but also reminded her of what was lost in leaving Earth behind. The crew often shared these memories, weaving stories of home into their collective consciousness. It created a patchwork of human experience, a digital campfire where they found solidarity. Yet, these echoes were sometimes shadows that deepened feelings of isolation. Neuralink's technology blurred the line between presence and absence, making distance feel both smaller and more poignant. Ava's connection to Earth was sustained not only through technology but through her relationships. Regular neural communications with loved ones grounded her, even as time dilation and signal delays imposed limits. Her sister, Maya, became a vital emotional anchor, sharing updates, hopes, and challenges. These conversations, enriched by Neuralink empathy, transcended words, conveying feelings and subtleties impossible before. Yet, the distance was a silent ache. On Mars, Ava found herself balancing two worlds, the tangible, alien terrain of her new home and the rich, evolving neural landscapes of memory and connection. Neuralink enabled her to live fully in both, but the tension between them was constant. The question of identity surfaced repeatedly. Was she still the woman who had grown up under Arizona's sun, or had she become something new, an explorer whose mind was now a hybrid of biology and technology, Earth and Mars? This tension shaped Ava's reflections on the future of humanity. Neuralink promised to expand human potential, but at what cost? The answers were not clear, but Ava believed that honoring both past and future was essential. As the mission expanded, Earth sent more settlers, each bringing unique cultural imprints that enriched the neural collective. Diversity became a source of strength and complexity, requiring careful neural protocols to manage cognitive and emotional differences. Ava worked closely with cultural anthropologists and neural ethicists to create inclusive frameworks that honored individuality while fostering unity. These efforts highlighted the challenge of preserving humanity's rich mosaic within the neural frontier. The Martian environment, harsh and unyielding, served as a powerful contrast to the warmth of Earth memories. The red dust, cold winds, and endless horizons demanded resilience and adaptation. Neuralink's enhancements helped, but so did the crew's shared determination and care for one another. Ava often found herself meditating on the delicate balance between human fragility and technological empowerment. The habitat itself became a symbol of this duality, a constructed refuge that melded cutting-edge technology with human warmth. Its walls bore the marks of human touch, photos, drawings, mementos, reminders that even in the midst of neural integration, the human spirit sought expression. One significant event challenged the crew's sense of connection to Earth. A major solar flare disrupted communication channels for days, severing direct links with mission control and loved ones. The blackout underscored their physical and psychological isolation, magnifying the importance of their neural collective. During this time, Ava and the crew relied heavily on their shared neural interface to maintain cohesion and morale. They held virtual gatherings, sharing memories, stories, and hopes in a neural space that transcended the silence outside. This crisis deepened their appreciation for the technology that bound them and the human bonds that sustained them. As communication resumed, the crew faced a surge of messages and updates from Earth, including urgent political and environmental news. Neuralink's rapid processing allowed them to absorb and discuss complex situations, fostering a sense of participation despite distance. Ava reflected on the evolving relationship between Mars and Earth, a dynamic of interdependence, hope, and tension. Neuralink had created a new kind of bridge between worlds, but it was fragile and required nurturing. The mission's scientific achievements continued to inspire. Neuralink-enabled cognitive enhancements accelerated problem-solving and innovation, leading to breakthroughs in sustainable energy, agriculture, and medicine. These advances held promise not only for Mars but for Earth's future, illustrating the interconnectedness of their destinies. Yet, Ava remained mindful that technological progress must be paired with ethical wisdom. Neuralink's potential to shape minds demanded responsibility, transparency, and respect for human dignity. In quiet moments, Ava contemplated the legacy they were building. Neuralink was more than a tool, it was a pathway to new forms of consciousness and community. The echoes of Earth, its cultures, histories, and emotions, were woven into this new tapestry, grounding the neural frontier in shared humanity. As the Martian sun set, casting long shadows across the red plains, Ava felt a deep sense of purpose. She was part of a pioneering generation, tasked with navigating uncharted neural and cosmic realms. The journey was daunting but filled with promise. Neuralink had opened doors to vast new worlds, both external and internal. Ava whispered a vow to herself and to those she carried in her mind: no matter how far we journey, the echoes of Earth will guide us home. The neural frontier was expanding, and with it, the story of what it means to be human was being rewritten, one mind, one connection, one discovery at a time. As the mission matured, Neuralink's influence extended far beyond Mars's red surface, reaching into new frontiers of human experience and potential. Ava stood at the threshold of what many called the next evolutionary leap, a neural revolution not only of technology but of consciousness itself. Neuralink had already transformed communication, cognition, and collaboration among the crew, but the true challenge was to harness this power responsibly, ethically, and inclusively. The neural frontier was expanding, and with it came profound questions about identity, freedom, and the future of humanity. Neuralink's latest breakthrough was the integration of synthetic dreams, neural-generated scenarios that allowed the crew to explore alternate realities, rehearse complex tasks, and unlock subconscious creativity. These synthetic dreams were shared within the neural mesh, creating collective narratives that inspired innovation and emotional healing. Ava found herself journeying nightly through these shared dreamscapes, where ideas flowed freely and boundaries dissolved. The experience was intoxicating but demanded grounding, as the line between dream and waking reality blurred. The neural interface evolved into a portal not just for information but for imagination, empathy, and transformation. Yet, this expansion was met with caution. Some crew members voiced concerns about over-reliance on synthetic experiences, fearing detachment from the physical world and authentic human interaction. Ava listened carefully, recognizing that neural technology must serve humanity, not supplant it. To address these concerns, she introduced neural wellness protocols that balanced immersive experiences with mindfulness practices and real-world engagement. The goal was to cultivate resilience and presence in an era of unprecedented neural connectivity. Meanwhile, the mission's impact rippled back to Earth. Neuralink-inspired initiatives in education, healthcare, and social networking emerged, echoing the lessons learned on Mars. Ava participated in global neural summits, sharing insights about neural ethics, community building, and cognitive enhancement. The dialogue was vibrant and sometimes contentious, reflecting diverse hopes and fears about the neural future. Ava's message remained clear: technology must be wielded with wisdom and compassion, honoring the complexity of human nature. On Mars, the neural collective faced unexpected challenges. A subtle neural virus, an unintended byproduct of open neural connectivity, emerged, causing cognitive disruptions and emotional instability in some crew members. The phenomenon was a wake-up call, underscoring the delicate balance of neural ecosystems. Ava and Luma collaborated with Earth-based neural security experts to develop countermeasures, blending AI-driven diagnostics with neural immune system enhancements. This crisis tested the mission's resilience and deepened the understanding of neural vulnerabilities. The neural frontier was a landscape of opportunity and risk. Throughout this turmoil, Ava's leadership emphasized transparency, empathy, and collective problem-solving. The crisis sparked innovations in neural hygiene, data protection, and mental health support, reinforcing the importance of holistic stewardship. Beyond technology and survival, Ava explored the philosophical dimensions of neural expansion. Neuralink's fusion of minds challenged traditional notions of selfhood and consciousness. Ava engaged in neural dialogues with philosophers, neuroscientists, and spiritual leaders, seeking to map the contours of emerging neural identities. These conversations enriched her understanding and inspired new approaches to neural integration that honored diversity and autonomy. The neural frontier was not a destination but a continuous journey of discovery. As new settlers arrived, trained in neural protocols, the colony grew not only in numbers but in complexity. Cultural exchanges, neural adaptations, and ecological expansions created a dynamic, evolving society. Ava witnessed the birth of neural traditions, rituals and practices that blended technology with human meaning. These traditions fostered community cohesion and individual grounding in the midst of rapid change. The habitat itself transformed into a neural sanctuary, designed with architecture that responded to neural feedback, optimizing emotional well-being and cognitive function. This marriage of environment and mind illustrated the holistic vision of the mission, a future where technology and humanity co-evolved harmoniously. In her quieter moments, Ava reflected on the journey from Earth to Mars and beyond. Neuralink had rewritten the script of human potential, opening doors to unexplored realms of thought and connection. Yet, the greatest discoveries were not just scientific but personal, the deepening of empathy, the expansion of identity, and the courage to embrace uncertainty. As the Martian sun dipped below the horizon, Ava felt a profound sense of hope and responsibility. The neural frontier beckoned, vast and uncharted, inviting humanity to explore not only new worlds but new dimensions of self and society. Neuralink's legacy was still being written, but Ava knew its true power lay in the stories woven by countless minds united in curiosity, compassion, and creativity. With resolve and reverence, she whispered into the neural collective, "Let us step forward together, mindful of who we are and who we may become." The neural frontier expanded, and with it, the promise of a future where the boundaries between mind, machine, and universe dissolved into infinite possibility. The neural frontier was no longer just an experiment or a dream, it was becoming the new reality that defined human existence on Mars and beyond. Ava could feel it in the pulse of the collective mind, in the rhythm of daily life, and in the silent, electric hum of technology fused with flesh. Neuralink's inventions had reshaped what it meant to think, feel, and belong. But with great power came unprecedented responsibility, and the mission was approaching a critical tipping point. This was a moment of profound transformation, a crossroads where choices would ripple across minds, generations, and worlds. The tipping point was both exhilarating and daunting. Neural integration had brought unparalleled advances, problems solved in moments, emotions shared with raw honesty, creative sparks ignited across neural networks. Yet, this same integration carried risks of dependency, loss of privacy, and the erosion of individuality. Ava wrestled with the paradox daily. The challenge was to nurture the collective without sacrificing the unique flame of each person's soul. In recent months, the colony had expanded rapidly, with new settlers arriving eager to embrace the neural mesh. Training programs were rigorous, designed to prepare minds for the delicate dance of neural fusion. But not everyone adapted smoothly. Some experienced cognitive dissonance, neural fatigue, or feelings of alienation within the collective. Ava worked tirelessly with the medical and psychological teams to develop interventions that balanced enhancement with healing. This period saw the rise of neural mentors, experienced crew members who guided newcomers through the emotional and cognitive complexities of neural integration. Ava herself became a mentor, sharing not only technical knowledge but the wisdom born of her own journey. She emphasized the importance of boundaries, self-awareness, and intentionality in neural interactions. As the colony matured, debates about governance and autonomy surfaced within the neural collective. How should decisions be made when minds were interconnected? What protections were needed to prevent subtle coercion or manipulation? Ava convened neural councils, forums where thoughts and feelings could be expressed openly, processed collectively, and distilled into shared resolutions. These councils became the heartbeat of the community, embodying the promise and challenge of collective intelligence. One pivotal event accelerated the tipping point, a breakthrough in neural synchronization technology that enabled near-instantaneous cognitive and emotional alignment among all members of the colony. This synchronization magnified cooperation and empathy to unprecedented levels but also raised alarms about the potential for groupthink and loss of dissenting voices. Ava led a rigorous ethical review, balancing the technology's immense benefits against the risks. The decision was made to implement synchronization with optional participation and strict safeguards, emphasizing respect for individual choice. The rollout sparked lively discussions throughout the colony, reflecting diverse perspectives and the richness of human experience. Neuralink's neural security teams enhanced protocols to detect and prevent unwanted influence, ensuring mental sovereignty remained inviolate. The tipping point was not just about technology but about trust in the collective, in leaders, in the neural interface itself. Ava knew that this trust had to be earned and nurtured continuously. On a personal level, Ava confronted her own limits and fears. The neural collective had expanded her mind and heart but also challenged her sense of self. Moments of overwhelm and vulnerability surfaced, reminding her of the human fragility beneath the neural enhancements. Through neural counseling and mindfulness practices, Ava cultivated resilience and groundedness. Her journey became a beacon for others navigating similar challenges. The colony's successes extended beyond cognition and governance. Neuralink-enabled collaboration accelerated terraforming efforts, environmental restoration, and cultural creation. Art, music, and storytelling flourished within neural spaces, weaving rich tapestries of shared meaning. Neural dreams and virtual gatherings fostered joy and connection, reinforcing the humanity at the core of technological progress. As Mars's landscape slowly transformed, so did its society. Ava envisioned a future where neural technology bridged not only minds but hearts, healing old divisions and inspiring new possibilities. Yet, she also understood that vigilance was necessary. The neural frontier was a terrain of both light and shadow, requiring constant reflection and ethical stewardship. The tipping point was a threshold, a moment to pause, assess, and choose the path forward with clarity and compassion. As the Martian dawn broke over the horizon, casting rosy light across the red plains, Ava felt a surge of hope and determination. Neuralink's inventions had opened doors to a new epoch of human experience. The tipping point was not an end but a beginning, the emergence of a neural civilization that honored individuality and embraced connection. With steady breath and open heart, Ava whispered into the neural collective, "We stand together at the edge of tomorrow. Let us choose wisely, live boldly, and love deeply." The future was vast and unwritten, but the power to shape it lay within each connected mind, each brave soul ready to embrace the neural frontier. The dawn of a new era stretched across the Martian horizon, a symbol of both an ending and a beginning. Ava stood at the heart of this transformation, her mind intertwined with thousands through Neuralink's vast neural mesh, yet her spirit anchored in the timeless human longing for meaning, love, and belonging. The journey from Earth to Mars had been epic, marked by triumphs and trials, but it was just the start of something far greater, a rewriting of humanity's future, where technology and soul coalesced in unprecedented ways. In the weeks leading up to this moment, the colony had reached a remarkable milestone, full neural integration, where every settler participated in a shared cognitive and emotional network, balanced carefully with respect for individual autonomy. This new neural society was vibrant, dynamic, and deeply connected. Yet, it was also fragile, requiring continual care and ethical vigilance. Ava reflected on the path that brought them here. The breakthroughs of Neuralink that had expanded minds, healed wounds, and built bridges across physical and psychological distances. Elon Musk's vision of a multiplanetary future was no longer just a dream, it was alive in the thoughts and hearts of those pioneering the neural frontier. But the true power of Neuralink lay not in technology alone but in its ability to amplify the essence of what it meant to be human: empathy, creativity, resilience, and love. Ava thought about the countless conversations, shared dreams, and moments of vulnerability that had woven their community together. Each connection was a thread in a grand tapestry of collective consciousness, enriched by diversity yet unified in purpose. Neuralink had unlocked new dimensions of collaboration and understanding, revealing that the future was not a lonely frontier but a shared journey. Yet, Ava knew that every beginning carried with it shadows of uncertainty. Questions of identity, freedom, and meaning remained at the forefront. What would it mean to grow up as a child of the neural age? How would humanity preserve its rich cultural heritage amidst rapid neural evolution? These questions were alive within every mind, sparking ongoing dialogue and discovery. Neuralink's designers and ethicists had embraced these challenges, developing frameworks that honored human dignity while encouraging bold innovation. Ava herself became a teacher and guide, mentoring new settlers not only in technical skills but in the art of living deeply in a neural world. She emphasized balance, between immersion and presence, between collective wisdom and individual voice. The Martian landscape mirrored this balance, harsh yet beautiful, alien yet strangely familiar. Ava often wandered beneath the rose-hued sky, contemplating the fragile resilience of life in this new home. The red dust whispered stories of ancient worlds and new dreams, inspiring her to think beyond the limits of technology and into the realm of spirit. As Neuralink continued to evolve, Ava saw its potential to heal not only individuals but societies. The neural mesh could foster empathy across vast distances, bridge cultural divides, and amplify voices often unheard. It was a tool for justice and compassion as much as for innovation. On a personal level, Ava's relationships deepened within the neural collective. The intimacy of shared thoughts and feelings created bonds that transcended language and space. Love blossomed in new forms, fluid, expansive, and enriched by neural empathy. These connections fueled Ava's hope and courage, reminding her that even in a world reshaped by technology, the heart remained central. The mission's scientific achievements were staggering: sustainable ecosystems, advanced medical therapies, and novel forms of education, all enhanced by neural integration. But Ava treasured most the small moments, the laughter shared over neural campfires, the comfort offered in times of stress, the silent support of a mind reaching out across the neural web. These moments embodied the true promise of Neuralink's vision. As the colony celebrated its achievements, Ava addressed the community through a neural broadcast, her words weaving through minds like a warm embrace. She spoke of gratitude for the journey, acknowledgement of challenges, and a call to embrace the unknown with openness and humility. Her message resonated deeply: we are the architects of a future where humanity's greatest strengths, our empathy, creativity, and resilience, are amplified and honored. Let us build this future together, with courage and kindness. The neural collective responded with waves of affirmation, joy, and resolve. It was a moment of unity and renewal, a collective breath before the next chapter of exploration. Neuralink's inventions had rewired not only brains but futures, creating a foundation for infinite possibilities. Ava's mind drifted to Earth, to her family and friends, and to all who watched their story unfold. She whispered a blessing into the neural network. May our journey inspire new beginnings everywhere. May love and connection always guide the way. In the vastness of space and mind, Ava felt a profound peace. The neural frontier was not just a place or technology but a living, breathing evolution of what it meant to be human. The story of Neuralink to Mars was a story of hope, courage, and infinite possibility, a reminder that even in the face of uncertainty, love would always lead the way. And as the Martian night settled in, the colony's lights glimmered like stars, a beacon of new beginnings in the cosmic sea. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?